Hi everyone, welcome back again to the Education Diary, day number 2, in which we are going to be discussing again on the basics of robotics, right? So 2 days before we were discussing about the field of robotics. We understand about the architecture field, about of course the physical field, hardware industry, and of course the software industry, which was having programming, coding, and of course 90% of the courses which actually you learn in the field of software is based on the software testings, right? But in the field of hardware, we basically discussed that what is the importance of hardware architecture or the OS architecture on which you should focus if you are going into the field of robotics. So today we are going to be understanding, like, okay, so suppose finally we have learned about the robotics. Now what are the best ways or how we should start learning about robotics? That is something really important. All right, so we discussed that, yeah, robotics is basically a part of hardware computer science, we can say, right? So it is kind of like a portion of hardware computer science. Now in the robotics, you're going to be having multiple layers to learn, right? So we can say layer 1 or level 1, level 2, level 3, and at the very last you are having level 6, which is known as to the highest, we can say, point. Now in the level 1 you should be having at least some of the basic knowledge of the programming languages. Now this is something my suggestion. You should be having a focus on C++ or C sharp, or you can go with C. Right now some students might going to be asking, what about Python? Now I consider that Python is good to go, but these are some of the very important programming languages. If you want to go into the field of robotics, Python is good, but it's not going to be sufficient for you. All right, apart from that, what I would suggest is that level 2 is going to be working on simulation uh, tools. So today we are going to be discussing that what are some of the simulation tools if you are in the field of robotics. And of course you can download, you can run based on your operating system. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, some of them are open source. Now of course you are going to be learning more and more extra things in level 3, level 4, level 5, and level 6. Level 3 is of course going to be learning IoT, right? So once actually you understand about the simulation tools or simulation, that how actually the robotic works in the field of, we can say, this AI, so you have to focus on IoT as well. So IoT plus simulation tools plus of course programming is going to be a level 3, and of course the more levels you are going to be coming up, so it is going to be repetitive, and of course you have to learn something extra. All right, so Arduino, as I told you, that it basically comes under the IoT, but IoT is having multiple different kind of sensors, right? But Arduino is something like different, so you should know programming in Arduino as well. Now this programming is basically based on the programming languages which engineers do use, but Arduino programming language is a different programming language which you should also focus on. All right, so this is something, just a very basic steps I'm telling you, that how you can actually proceed if you want to go into the field of robotics, how you can actually go in that. Now as usual, let's dive into something, we can say RoboFlow. Instead of that, let's go with universe. So I hope so that you guys already know about RoboFlow, right? So if I click on universe, I think so this should be working. Yep, here we are. So as usual, this can be used in the form of robotics, in the form of computer vision, if you are working in that case. Like for an example, if you want to make a computer vision, or if you want to make a robot which can see something and detect something like fire, something like humans, or something like specific faces. So based on these different kind of trainings, you can actually explore this kind of data set. So we are going to be having a lot and lot of data set from which you can actually download, right? So suppose if I just write here human faces or human face, so if I just search it, so you are going to be having face detection, you are going to be having facial emotion recognition. So multiple things are going to be there, right? So you can actually use this kind of we can say website in order to train up your model by using computer vision, and of course in the field of robotics as well. Now the second thing is basically the robot operating system. So if you are not familiar in the field of robotics, so this is the robot operating system. Now of course how to download everything is basically being given here. All the steps are here. You can actually download and you can start working on this particular kind of operating system, which is basically only being used in the field of robotics, right? So here, as you can go YROS, so getting started. If you're going for the getting started, you can basically read up the installation process, how you can actually download. Now here, as you can see, that this is for the Linux, this is for the Windows. Now for the Mac, I think so this is not available. So yep, for the Mac, this kind of operating system is not available right now, but yep, on the Windows 10, this is for Windows 10, this is for Ubuntu Linux, this is basically being available. So apart from that, this is the main we can say option, the very first one, which is the ROS Noitic Ninjamice, which is for the Ubuntu or Linux one. These are some of the extra tools which you can download for this particular operating system, and then you can start working on that. Again, it's much more suggested to read at least the documentations before proceeding forward, because I used this kind of operating system around 1 or 2 years back. So right now the policies may have changed, the updates, the patches has been maybe updated, or something new features has been added up, so I'm not sure right now. So you need to actually read for the ROS. Apart from that, if I'm going for the next robotics tool, which is the simulation tool, is going to be Zebo or Gazebo, right? So this is something which actually you can use if you are very beginner in the field of robotics, which basically allows you to have a 3D view, to actually simulate, to actually configure, to actually write up the code and execute within the software. So suppose if you have a robot, you write a computer vision software code inside the software, so based on that code the robot is going to behave. So that is going to give you an overview that how your robot is actually going to behave in the real world if you're going to be programming that inside the software. So if you go here, so you can see that I hope so this is the open source libraries, it's a simulation transport sensors is also being we can say embedded inside this software. So you can actually go here. So what are the features? You can see some of the features. It is having some cloud integrations, ROS, that means right now also we just saw remote robot operating system, so it is also being available on that. You are having advanced 3D graphics, precise physics, right? So Dart is basically being used inside the Gazebo, so that is something really great. So you can actually go into the community, and yeah, you're going to be having lots and lots of things, so you may need to check. As usual, I told you, you need to work on this, you have to download. This is something just I'm showing you, right? The third thing is going to be your Coppelia sim, that is Coppelia Robotics. Previously it was known as VREP, but now its name has been changed to Coppelia sim. So you can actually go for this particular software also, and you can start working on the robot simulation, right? So let's give it some time, it's loading. Alright, so here we are. So here, as you can see, that this is basically in testing and validating complex robotic system via algorithms prototyping, kinematic design and digital twin creation. So this kind of things actually gives you extra skills. So the main purpose of this webinar is to actually let you know that what kind of different softwares or what kind of different kind of websites can be used in order to like enhance yourself. So this is something here, you can actually go to the services, you can actually go to the download directly, and here as you can see that this is basically for pricing, this is also for pricing, this is free version, which is the commercial, like the normally like player one, so you can actually download this one, right? Apart from that, I would suggest you again to check for some documentations that how to work on these kind of softwares. So check out some of the videos if you can check. So suppose if I'm going to check for the morphing a simulation model into its convex or convex decomposed representation. So again, if you're not familiar with all these kind of things, so it's going to be hard for you, right? So I would suggest you to at least check for all these things, right? So here as you can see that you have to create kind of like models, and then the models are going to be executed based on your configurations which you have done, right? So I'm not going to play the full video, but apart from that, I'm going to show you the next one. Now this is the VBots. Now again, if you want for the free and open source 3D robot simulator, so you can actually go with this kind of thing, which is also very basic one. So if you are like planning to go with a very basic functions or functionalities, you can just download these kind of things, Cyber Robotics, or we also discussed about Copilot Robotics. But If you are going to the complex things, so I would suggest to go with the Azubo or the robot operating system. So these two are the complex one, but the rest are kind of like easy to go with. Now here also you can read some of the documentation, which I would again suggest, and these are some of the projects which you can build inside the cyber robotics, right? Here if you are going to the download, so you can actually download, I think so I can download for Mac. Yep, I can basically download for Mac as well as Windows is available. The size is really less, so it is almost less than 100 MB. For the Windows it's almost 250 MB. All right, and this is an open source, by the way, so you can also go to the GitHub page, and then you can, if you want to update anything, you can update there. Next is basically going to be coming for the Microsoft Robotics Developer Studio. So if you are not familiar with this, so it is also one of a very famous tool in the field of robotics. So you can actually go with this kind of thing, and then you can download. But I think so this is the paid one, which is MSRS. So I'm not sure about this one, but yeah, this is basically having kind of like license. So here as you can see, they are not updating the content regularly, so I'm not sure about this one. But yeah, actually you can go and you can study this kind of thing also. The next, as I told you, is Arduino. So if you're not familiar with the Arduino, I would suggest to at least have some knowledge about Arduino and Arduino languages, Arduino programming especially. You can actually use different kind of IoT devices and different kind of sensors, different kind of boards, microchips, microcontrollers, LEDs, and then based on that you can actually create up your own kind of robot, which is having the functionality which you want. So you can actually go and you can buy the Arduino. This is like very cheap device, but having lots of usage, so I would suggest to at least go with the Arduino. Next is of course updating up yourself. So if you're going for the Robo Hub, so as usual I told you that RoboFlow is basically based on the computer vision data set. So it basically provides you a huge data set based on the computer vision or algorithms or whatever, so you can actually go and search here. But 99% I would say that it is used in the computer vision project. Now RoboHub basically gives you kind of like news, what is the recent update into the field of robotics. So you can actually go and then you can see that how the or kind of like podcasts are being here. All right, so you can actually go here. Again, you can go to the views, you can go to the news, and you can basically see the recent updates into the field of only robotics, nothing else. And the very last is going to be your robot shop. So again, if you want to purchase some devices or some kind of parts of robotics, that can be hands, faces, or legs, any kind of like thing which you want to actually purchase, so you can go for the robot shop. And here as you can see, you're going to be having different kind of kits. Some of them are going to be really expensive, so I would suggest not to take this one. Of course they are pre-built, but again, if you want to just go to the shop, you're going to be having some robot parts, robot kits, consumer robotics, professional and industrial robots. So I wouldn't suggest to go with this one because it is going to be having lots of things, so I can simply go to the robot parts. uh, so as usual, you are going to be having lots and lots of robot parts which are going to be cheap for you. So here if I'm going for the brand options or search by categories, so I can go with the data storage, communications, LCD and display, IoT, of course mechanics, linear motors, microcontrollers. So if I go for the robot sensors, which is something I really want, so these are some of the sensors. But again, depending on your scenario, you can actually go and purchase this kind of expensive thing like ultra leap sensor, which is basically based on 3D eye. But if I want to suggest here, so I can simply go with the eye, and I think so I have to search like much more filters way. So let's try to find something like robot eye. So if we can get kind of like eye part or something like that. So basically I can go and search for hands, or so here as you can see I'm having this kind of thing. So the dexterous hands, so this is something which we can purchase. Now again, I hope so this is not that much expensive, which is it's showing it's almost $9,000. I don't think so it is this much expensive. Maybe we have to change some currency or something like that. So you can see that it is showing me inside USD. Let's go with the Japan. Ah, so all right. So let's go with the hands, and let's go with the DIY, right? So we can go with this one, DIY. So this one is cheap. This one is not very expensive. It's almost 3000 Indian currency. Yeah, actually you can go and by the way, you can actually, if you're having 3D printed, you can print up all of your parts by own. So something that which I wanted to show you, right? If you go into the professional industrial robot, so that is going to be really expensive for sure. So here, as you can see, $1,600 or $2,000, $4,200. So of course, it depends on you, like what kind of parts you want. Do you want to make a rover? Do you want to make a car? Do you want to make a robot, a walking robot, or speaking face? You know that, or tracking eyes or hand motion. So depending on your case scenarios, you can actually find the parts from here. All right, so I hope so that you understand about the we can say functions about robotics. In the last webinar, we discussed about the architecture, computer science, software, and hardware field, and we also discussed some of the files, some of the PPT presentations from the robotics. What is the history? What are the current trends? What are different parts in robotics? But today we actually saw some of the tools, some of the websites, some of the softwares which are actually used into the field of robotics. So I hope so that you really enjoyed. And if you do have any questions about the field of robotics, you can send the email to the education diary. And yeah, let's meet to the next webinar.